What if the greatest medicine for your body and spirit wasn't a prescription, but a feeling you already carry inside? What if the power to slow aging, heal the heart, and awaken the soul was quietly waiting, not in the future, but here, right now? Today, you'll discover how gratitude after 60 becomes not just a habit, but a secret weapon for living stronger, longer, and happier. Gratitude is not just a word. It's a living force that can reshape your mind, heal your heart, and change your very biology. In the next few minutes, we will walk through a real, emotional story of transformation. A story that will reveal how practicing gratitude can turn ordinary days into extraordinary victories, even after 60. This is not theory, it's life, unfolding in its most beautiful form. Evelyn had always been a practical woman. Growing up in a modest neighborhood, she learned early that life didn't owe her anything. Happiness, she believed, was something you had to chase. And even then, it was fleeting. So she built her life on routines, on goals, on keeping busy. And for decades it worked. She married young, raised 2 daughters, taught elementary school for 35 years. She paid off her mortgage early, kept herself healthy, attended church on Sundays. Her life was neat, structured, and, for the most part, satisfying. But when Evelyn turned 68, something shifted. Retirement had sounded like a dream. Slow mornings, free afternoons, no more alarm clocks. But instead, she found herself adrift. The structure that had once held her upright began to crumble quietly inside her. Her daughters lived in different states, busy with their own grown-up lives. Her husband, Mark, spent more time in his workshop than in conversation. The house, once alive with activity, now echoed with an eerie stillness. Evelyn felt herself shrinking. Not physically, though the slight stoop in her shoulders grew more pronounced, but inside, where her spirit used to stretch wide. Small things began to bother her. The ache in her knees in the morning, the tiny cracks in the living room wall, the way the neighbor's dog barked incessantly every afternoon. She caught herself sighing a lot. Her sleep grew restless. Her smiles grew rare. It was during one of these restless nights at 2 in the morning that she stumbled upon an article online. It was titled simply, "The Science of Gratitude." Evelyn almost clicked away. It sounded fluffy, unrealistic, like one of those shallow slogans printed on throw pillows. But something made her pause. The article spoke of studies showing that gratitude could physically alter the brain, boost the immune system, and even slow down cellular aging. It wasn't just emotion. It was biology. Evelyn scoffed at first. How could writing down "I'm grateful for my cat" possibly matter against the tide of life slipping away? But that night, with nothing else to lose, she grabbed an old notebook from the kitchen drawer and scribbled, "I'm grateful for the sound of rain against the window." It felt silly. Forced. She closed the notebook and went to bed. The next morning, Evelyn didn't think much of it. But when she returned home from grocery shopping and placed her keys on the counter, her eyes caught the little notebook still open, waiting. Without meaning to, she smiled. Maybe there was something there, a tiny spark, a quiet flicker, and so she wrote again. "I'm grateful for warm soup on a cold day." Thus began a ritual, not with fireworks, not with some sweeping emotional change, but with tiny steps, like placing stones across a river, unsure if they would hold. Weeks passed. The habit grew, and slowly, Evelyn noticed things. Not grand things, not the lottery-winning kind of miracles, but small, golden threads woven through her days. The way the light hit the kitchen table at noon, the neighbor's little boy waving enthusiastically every time he saw her, the soothing rhythm of folding laundry, moments that once passed by like background noise now stood tall and shimmering. It wasn't that her life became easier. The dog still barked every afternoon after all. But Evelyn found her heart responding differently. She wasn't bracing herself against life anymore. She was welcoming it. One evening, while jotting down her blessings, she paused over the name Mark. Her husband had always been steady but distant, a man of few words. Lately, he seemed even quieter, almost brittle in his solitude. For the first time in years, Evelyn looked at him, really looked, and felt gratitude. Not for what he said, not for what he did, but simply for his presence, still sharing this winding journey with her. She closed her notebook that night with a full heart. And the next morning, over coffee, Evelyn reached across the table, placed her hand gently over Mark's, and said, "Thank you." Mark looked startled. Then, in the smallest way, he smiled. It was the first seed of a thaw between them, a thaw Evelyn hadn't even realized she was longing for. Gratitude was rebuilding not just her inner world, but the bridges outside of her. The days grew longer, the air warmer. Spring whispered promises of renewal through the open windows, carrying scents of fresh-cut grass and blooming jasmine. Evelyn found herself opening the curtains earlier each morning, letting sunlight spill generously onto the floors. It amazed her how much simple light could change the way a room felt, how much it could change the way she felt. One morning, while watering her small collection of potted plants on the porch, Evelyn noticed something. A tiny green shoot had appeared in a pot she had given up on months ago, a stubborn sprout pushing through dry, cracked soil. She stared at it, marveling at its audacity. Maybe life, too, was more stubborn, more resilient than she had given it credit for. And maybe she was, too. Later that week, Evelyn sat in the park, her gratitude journal balanced on her knee, when a woman approached. She was about Evelyn's age, with soft silver hair and a gentle, searching expression. "Mind if I sit?" she asked. Evelyn smiled and gestured to the empty bench space. They sat in comfortable silence, watching a pair of squirrels chase each other through the grass. Finally, the woman introduced herself. "Claire." They talked, hesitantly at first, then easily, like old friends remembering a language they once spoke fluently. Claire had lost her husband 2 years earlier. She was learning, painfully, how to fill her days again. Evelyn shared about her daughters, her routines, her discovery of the gratitude journal. Claire listened intently. After a while, she said, "I wish I could find something to be grateful for, but everything feels smaller now." Evelyn thought for a moment. Then she said quietly, "It does, but maybe that's the trick, learning to be grateful for smaller things." Claire smiled sadly. "I'm not sure I know how." "Neither did I," Evelyn admitted. "I started with coffee, rain, a good chair." They laughed. And in that laughter, Evelyn realized another truth. Gratitude wasn't something you waited to feel. It was something you chose to practice, especially when it didn't come easily. Over the next weeks, Evelyn and Claire met often. They exchanged journal entries, walked together, shared homemade lunches. They celebrated tiny victories, a better night's sleep, a letter from a friend, the satisfaction of a neatly folded stack of laundry. Each shared blessing stitched them closer, weaving a tapestry of connection neither had realized they were missing. One afternoon, as they sat side by side in the sun, Claire said, "I used to think gratitude was just pretending things were better than they are." Evelyn shook her head. "No, gratitude doesn't erase the hard parts. It just reminds you they're not the whole story." Claire wiped her eyes. Neither woman spoke after that. They didn't need to. The silence between them was full, heavy with understanding, light with shared hope. Summer arrived with its golden insistence, stretching the days into long, lazy afternoons. Evelyn and Claire made it a ritual to meet every Saturday under the big oak at the park, journals in hand, iced tea in tow. Some weeks they brought fresh flowers for each other. Other times they brought poems copied from old books, or simply smiles that spoke louder than words. In their small, persistent way, they were weaving new lives from the threads of gratitude. One day, Claire arrived at the bench with a frown creasing her forehead. "My grandson is struggling," she said quietly. "Bad grades, anger. I don't know how to help him." Evelyn listened, her heart aching for her friend. After a moment, she said, "Maybe he needs someone to see the good in him, even if he can't see it yet." Claire looked skeptical. "You think gratitude can fix that?" "No," Evelyn said softly, "but it can help you stay soft enough, strong enough, to love him through it." Claire wiped a tear from the corner of her eye and nodded. Later that week, Claire wrote in her journal, "I'm grateful for the chance to be part of his journey, even the messy parts. Small shift, massive impact." Gratitude didn't remove their challenges. It transformed the way they carried them. Meanwhile, Evelyn found herself reaching deeper. She began practicing gratitude not just for the pleasant moments, but even for the hard ones. For the rainy days that kept her indoors, urging her to slow down. for the aching knees that reminded her of every step, every mile walked in a full, rich life, for the old grief that, though softened by time, still brushed her heart tenderly, a reminder of love once fiercely lived. There was an unexpected power in this kind of gratitude. It was no longer about listing only the good. It was about honoring the whole. And in doing so, Evelyn felt herself expanding, like a tree growing new rings each season, stronger at the core with every passing year. Autumn crept in, painting the trees with fire. Evelyn and Claire bundled in sweaters and scarves, their breath visible in the crisp morning air. One Saturday, the park hosted a small community fair. Families bustled past, laughter rising like music over the food stalls and game booths. Among the crowd, Evelyn spotted a familiar figure, her younger daughter, Leah, holding her toddler son by the hand. For a moment, Evelyn froze, unsure whether to call out. The distance between them had grown quietly over the years, not from any great argument, but from the slow drift of unspoken words, missed opportunities, the busyness of different lives. Before she could decide, Leah spotted her. Their eyes met. And just like that, a hesitant smile. The little boy tugged Leah's hand, urging her toward the balloon stand. Leah hesitated, then motioned Evelyn over. They spent the next hour walking together, talking shyly at first, then with growing ease. Evelyn marveled at how simple gratitude, for this moment, for this fragile reconnection, could thaw years of cold silence. When Leah said, "You should come by next weekend for dinner," Evelyn's heart nearly burst. Gratitude had not only healed her own spirit, it had begun mending the spaces between her and those she loved. As winter approached, Evelyn felt a quiet transformation blooming inside her. The air grew colder, nights arrived sooner, and the trees stood bare against gray skies. But inside her, a different season was unfolding, a season of quiet strength, of unexpected warmth. She started noticing how even winter had its quiet gifts. The hush of snowfall blanketing the world in peace. The way a hot cup of tea could cradle the hands like a blessing. The glow of a single lamp turning a dark room into a sanctuary. One snowy afternoon, as Evelyn prepared for Leah's dinner invitation, she stood before the mirror longer than usual. The woman reflected back wasn't the same Evelyn who had first picked up that dusty notebook months ago. This Evelyn stood straighter. Her eyes held a softer, deeper shine. Lines still creased her face, but they no longer seemed like signs of loss. They looked like stories, worn proudly. At Leah's house, surrounded by family chatter and the clatter of dishes, Evelyn felt something settle inside her. A belonging, a rootedness she had thought lost forever. During dessert, her grandson climbed into her lap with the easy trust of a heart that hadn't learned fear yet. Evelyn held him close, breathing in the simple, fierce joy of the moment. She realized then, gratitude hadn't just changed how she moved through the world. It had changed how the world moved through her. It had given her back her life, not by making everything perfect, but by teaching her how to see the perfection already scattered among the imperfection. Later that night, back home, Evelyn opened her journal. She wrote, "I'm grateful for second chances. I'm grateful for warm kitchens and louder laughter. I'm grateful for the ache in my heart because it means I am still loving, still living." And for the first time in a long time, she slept deeply, wrapped not in blankets, but in a profound peace of simply being. Spring returned. The cycle of seasons spun onward, and Evelyn embraced it all. The rains, the blooms, the losses, the gains. Life hadn't gotten easier. There were still doctor's appointments, still lonely afternoons, still moments of sorrow that came uninvited. But Evelyn had changed. Where once she saw only what was missing, now she saw what was present. Where once she clutched regrets, now she cradled memories with tenderness. Where once she feared the ticking clock, now she counted each heartbeat as a blessing. Her world had not become less complicated. She had simply become more anchored. Every morning, she began her day the same way. A simple ritual, a quiet revolution. Before the coffee, before the news, before the worries could slip through the cracks. She would sit by the window, watch the slow unfolding of the morning, and write down 3 things she was grateful for. Some days the list flowed easily. I'm grateful for the neighbor's dog wagging its tail. I'm grateful for the smell of fresh laundry. I'm grateful for hands that still hold, feet that still walk, eyes that still see. Other days were harder. On those days, she dug deeper, grateful for resilience, for patience, for the stubbornness of hope itself. Each entry, whether easy or hard, was a stitch in the fabric of a life reimagined. A life not built on perfection, but on wonder. And so, Evelyn lived, fully, imperfectly, gratefully. On the morning of her 72nd birthday, Claire and a few others from their park circle gathered at Evelyn's favorite cafe. There was no grand party, no dramatic celebration, just a table covered in mismatched mugs, fresh flowers in a jar, and laughter so light it seemed to lift the entire room. Someone asked Evelyn, half joking, what her secret was, how she managed to smile so easily, to glow so brightly. Evelyn chuckled, tapping her pen thoughtfully against her journal. "My secret," she said, "it's noticing. It's remembering that life is more full than empty, if you look closely enough." Claire raised her cup in a toast. "To noticing," she said, and around the table, worn hands and weathered hearts lifted their glasses high, celebrating not just Evelyn, but themselves, their journeys, their stubborn, breathtaking, magnificent lives. In a world obsessed with youth, Evelyn had discovered a better treasure, the kind of beauty that only grows brighter with time, the kind of strength that only deepens through gratitude, the kind of life that only reveals its richest colors when you dare to look through grateful eyes. Now it's your turn. Pause, breathe, and look around you, right where you are. What 3 small things right now can you be grateful for? A warm sip of coffee? The soft light through the window? The quiet miracle of your own heartbeat? Write them down. Whisper them aloud. Feel how even the smallest gratitude stretches your heart wider, steadier, stronger. Gratitude is not found, it's created. And you, beautiful soul, have the power to create it right now. Life isn't about waiting for the perfect moment. It's about learning to find perfection in the ordinary. It's about noticing the gifts wrapped inside everyday breaths, everyday aches, everyday smiles. After 60, every sunrise is a victory, every laugh, a treasure, every memory, a miracle still unfolding. Gratitude doesn't erase pain or stop time. It transforms how we live through both. It teaches us that growing older isn't about fading. It's about deepening, expanding, and shining in ways we never imagined. So let every step you take forward be softened by thankfulness. Let every heartbeat whisper, "I am still here. I am still grateful. Thank you for walking this path with me today." May your days ahead be lighter, your heart fuller, and your smile slower, savoring every small joy life offers. Remember, the secret isn't in what you have, it's in how you see. Stay bright, stay open, stay beautifully, wonderfully grateful.